Okay. It's been a hot second since I used Streamyard. I forgot how easy it was to set everything up ahead of time. Okay, so hello. Before we get into the art making for this stream, let's take care of some intro related stuff for folks who are catching this on the replay. Hi, I'm Kelsey. I make comics and other arts. Today, I'm going to be drawing some holiday art for greeting cards and a desktop wallpaper download for fan club members. Fan club members are peeps who support me on Ko-fi with a monthly pledge. To join for that, there's more info in the description at ko-fi.com/Kelsey D. Crawford. And that's Kelsey spelled Kelci, D as in dog, Crawford. Today, I wanted to draw some holiday art because, again, making some greeting cards to send out to patrons and fan club members and also close friends. And also making holiday art because of the Fantasyville Holiday pop-up shop, which is in its final days. There's a ticker going on the bottom of the screen right now. I'll go ahead and pop the link up on the screen as well. If you head over to crowdfunder.com/FvillePopShop, you can check out all kinds of indie comics and art and prints and tote bags even made by independent artists based in Ohio. If you would like to show your support and check out all of that stuff, that is at crowdfunder.com/FvillePopShop. Link also in the description. However, we are taking orders only for a couple more days. We are ending the pre-order period December 1st. After December 1st, we're not tallying up any more orders. We're going to start packaging and shipping them to make sure they get to you on time for the holidays. So you have until December 1st to get your indie comics and place your orders at crowdfunder.com/FvillePopShop. Link on the screen, link in the doobly-doo. Without further ado, let's get into this holiday art, which is right here. A funny story about this. I actually came up with this idea this morning because I didn't want to rush the ideation of this too much. I was like, well, the idea will come to me when it comes to me. And then this morning, I was like, I got to draw Jamie, Thomas, and Daniel all stealing toys. I have to. This is a necessity for the holidays because they're pirates. Of course they would do that. I did get a lot of the legwork already done. All that's left at this point is to add dynamic lighting. So we're going to be doing that at this stage. I already have pretty much everything done except for that. And admittidly, it's because I kind of was making this in a little bit of a panic this morning because I got up this morning. I came up with the idea to draw it, and then I was like, oh God, am I going to have enough time to actually get this done before the end of the day? And then I got to this stage at about 3:30, and I went, sometimes I forget how fast I draw. So we're just going to be adding the dynamic lighting, and then after that, this piece will be finished. So once we're done making that, I'll go ahead and show off another piece of holiday art that I finished that is specific for members of my fan club. For more information about that, check out the fan club info in the description. Hello, Director 240 and the Los. Happy to see you in the chat today. Indeed, it is a holiday heist. Of course, they would plan a holiday heist because they want the presents. They want the presents. My guy. Yes. Okay. So I have an idea of the particular shade that I want to use for this because all the characters here are Roy G. Biv colors, or at least like there's red, there's blue, there's green, RGB. So that hits basically the key primaries for screen grabs. So for this, for shades, if we consult our handy dandy color wheel, I have it on the shade side or on the tint side because the shade side is a little bit beat up. But if we use the shade side and we arrange split complementary for if we arrange the split complementary for green here, or we get into the triad, well, the split complementary would be violet red and orange red. Triad would be violet and orange with green. So for this, I would say, I'm actually going to fiddle around with this for a second because I was going to shade this with orange, some tint of orange, but I think I might do something different. Let's rotate this to, okay. Here's blue, yellow, red. Okay. Okay, so we've got the red, we've got the blue, and we've got the green. So how about we shade with a yellow, actually, rather than straight orange. So glad we consulted the color wheel for this. Alrighty. Bringing up the yellow. There we go. We're going to do a shade of that. And okay. Now, I find it easier to do shading work with the colors turned off. So that's what we're doing. Oh, I forgot that I had the paint bucket tool on refer only to editing layer. We're going to change that back over to refer to other layers. Make that a little bit easier to handle. So I know this might be a little early to ask, but does anybody have any goals for 2024 percolating in their brain parts? Because I've been thinking about 2024, actually. Like, mostly in the vein of what do I want 2024 to look like for me? Because a lot's changed in the last, not just year, but like in the last 6 months, a lot has changed. And especially since I actually sold my car. So my availability to go to conventions is changing dramatically. It's basically changing my convention availability to where can I ride a train from or ride a plane from. I don't necessarily want to take Greyhound buses because I heard too many horror stories while I was at Small Press Expo this year, and I was like, I'm not going to deal with that. Don't make me content with that. So, yeah. Oh, you know what? Those are worthy goals. Apply to some publishers and get ready for the baby. Those are worthy. Those are worthy goals, my guy. I wish you the best of luck for those. Just break it down one step at a time and get it done. It's funny. I've also been thinking a lot about goals too, because I've actually accomplished a lot of goals that I set for myself, not just this year, but many years ago. Kudos to me, I actually managed to pay my student loans off. Holy heck yeah. I cheered about that for days. Because that was a major stressor on my life, I will be honest. And I managed to pay them off by selling my car. Full disclosure, that's how I paid off my student loans, is by selling my car. I don't regret it. I do not regret that decision. It has made some errands a little trickier, but my roommate still has her car. So if I really need to borrow a car, I just work around her schedule and we do a car share and do it that way. Half the time I don't need to drive though. And I've also discovered half the time I don't like to drive. I used to love driving when I was in my 20s And in my 20s was when I did like a lot of conventions, like a lot more conventions than what I did even this year. I think this year I only did like maybe 8 shows max. And even then that might be pushing it, because I know that there were some shows that I had to cancel at the last minute. So even then, I think that's like an overestimation. I think it's closer to like 5 or 6. I'd have to look. Not a ton of shows this year for me. And honestly, I think next year I just might not do any. I mean, I've applied for Animarathon, but I don't anticipate getting into Animarathon. Because every time that I've applied for Animarathon, they're like, polite no. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Because you're an anime convention and my stuff isn't really anime, so that's fine. Hilariously, last year I almost went to Animarathon as a panelist because I applied to run a panel there all about how to be an independent artist, being a self-employed artist without starving. And they actually accepted that pitch for a panel, and I ended up not presenting there because I went to HerdCon in at Marshall University instead. And I went there because HerdCon has always been real good to me. They've been real good people. They love my stuff. I love their stuff. I love the work that they do. They're run by librarians who really, really care about the communities that they're trying to curate. Cannot speak highly of them enough. So if you are able to go to HerdCon at Marshall University, it's down in West Virginia, but it's definitely worth going. I highly recommend that you go. Also, thank you for that, because like that was congrats on the student loans. Thank you, because that was, like I said, that was a huge stressor in my life. To the point where I was like making a lot of decisions on my life based on what would get these paid off faster. Now I don't have to do that, which is like, oh my God, it's such a relief. Because right now I'm, knock on wood, I'm basically debt free at this point. That doesn't mean that everything is easy. It's still pretty tight. Which is part of why I do stuff like run a pop-up shop. It's also one of the reasons why I'm hoping to grow the YouTube channel a little bit more, to maybe monetize it a bit. Because as of right now, rent still a little tricky. In full honesty, I just want to be real transparent about that. But student loans are not a trigger or a stressor for me anymore. they got handled. Now we can get back to the actual stuff to worry about, like rent and groceries. So huzzah for that. I know that not everybody is in a position to be able to, there is that very real choice, and it sucks that that is a thing that we have to contend with. All I can say is check your local 211, see what resources are available for you. And I did not realize that there was a resource called 211 until I found out about it online, and I was like, why haven't I found this sooner? Because the local 211 has like a ton of resources available for literally anybody. So yeah, check them out if you can. Speaking of resources, I was thinking about possibly going back to the Toledo Public Library and taking advantage of some business classes that they host on occasion. Because, I'm glad that, the local library can host stuff like that. It's fantastic. That said, the marketing class that they had recently, I'll be honest, I did not find a whole ton of it useful because there was still an emphasis on using Facebook. And based on my experience, Facebook is actually not great for helping independent artists succeed in their chosen venues. But honestly, the marketing class that I partook in for like a session was geared more for people who were doing like the traditional job route of here's how to apply for a business loan, here's how to talk to a bank about getting said business loan. And I'm like, that's not me. That is not the stage that I am at. If I want money to make something happen, I create a pitch and I go to Kickstarter. Like, I don't really need to go to a bank. It's one of the many perks of being a independent artist is that you are able to do that. You can just make a pitch for a crowdfunding platform of your choice and be like, help me make a thing. And if enough people believe in it, you can make the thing happen. I do feel kind of bad for because Mystery Science Theater 3000 recently did a crowdfunder campaign, but they did not make their goal. And I'm sorry that that did not happen because I really wanted to see season 14 happen, but they were not near goal. They were nowhere near their base goal. So there wasn't really a way that it was going to happen, unfortunately. It is weirdly comforting to me, though, that knowing that even Mystery Science Theater 3000 struggled to run their campaign just indicates to me that, yeah, stuff is rough for indie creators right now. And that's kind of my takeaway from that is like even Mystery Science Theater 3000 is struggling, and they've had successful Kickstarters before. Yeah, that's kind of my dilemma, director. Hello, giant corporate bank conglomerate. I want to make a book about LGBTQ plus pirates. Please help. No bank is going to bankroll that. Like, no bank is going to bankroll that. Like, even the Arts Commission of Toledo was like Legend of Jamie Roberts did make it to the final rounds, but ultimately they were like, nah. Even the Arts Commission was like, we're not going to bankroll this. What makes you think of actual like major mega bank is going to be like, yes, we want to bankroll this? For any weirdos who are out there being like, oh, all books are all kinds of like queer and gay, and if it's not queer and gay, you're not going to sell. Like, I was just ranting about how hard it is to get any kind of funding to get this kind of thing to happen and how I have to resort to crowdfunders and Kickstarters to make it happen because no bank is going to bankroll this stuff. No bank is going to bankroll it. Even the Arts Commission doesn't want to touch it. Like, come on. Y'all are being stupid. Like, people who rant about all books have to be gay in order to sell, and that's why my ultra conservative book doesn't sell, they're stupid. Of course, I don't really know any conservative books to like really sell that well either. Most of the books that I come across at Ollie's are all conservative books that got remaindered at the booksellers. That's how Ollie gets their stock, by the way, is they go to other stores and they're like, hey, we'll buy the stuff that's not selling on your shelves and we'll just buy it wholesale off of you so you don't have to worry about it. That is Ollie's entire business model right there. For anybody who's curious about how that worked. And if you've ever wondered why some of the clothes that they have are questionable And why some of the other stuff that they get is like, why do you suddenly have like 4,000 pallets of rugs? That would be why. They also tend to buy out a lot of stock from places that are going out of business and then marking it like stupid cheap. Because that's how Ollie's works. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that it is a business practice. Self-plug time. If you would like to support ethical business practices, consider supporting the Fantasyville Holiday Pop-Up Shop. The link is on the screen currently. You'll be supporting Ohio-based independent comic artists and other illustrators, including some folks who have made Rum and Sorcerer tote bags, some final run Doki Doki Literature Club prints, and a whole bunch of other stuff. For more, check out the link in the description or on the screen. And self-plug. But yeah, I will say, very glad that I'm still making Legend of Jamie Roberts. Like, it has brought me so much joy to make this comic and to draw the characters that are within it. I gotta say, since we're on the topic of webcomics, though, because I have another webcomic, Vanita and the Demon King. I'm thinking about putting that one on hiatus for a bit. I mean, I kind of have to put it on hiatus because I ran out of backlog. Because I was busy working on robot comics there for a little while. So I had to put a pause on making new pages of Vanita and the Demon King to make those robot comics. Now that the robot comics are done, which, by the way, the robot comics I'm talking about, you've probably seen me stream working on those before. If you are subscribed, you should subscribe. Another reason you should subscribe, I'm going to be posting shorts of some of those robot comic pages, actually, showing some of the behind the scenes, like, process shots from start to finish of some of those pages. So subscribe for that. And self-plug. Anyway, just doing some touching up erasing because I just remembered the direction that the light source is coming from. So, okay. By the way, if you have any questions for me about the process or anything like that, feel free to ask in the chat and I will get to you as soon as I can. We're doing all kinds of self promos around here. Or to support unethical practices, go support the Los. The Los is ethical. It's just a different kind of ethical. Seriously, support the Los. He is a great indie comics voice in the DC area. I mentioned changing up what conventions I would be going to next year because of the lack of a car. I don't need to have a car to go to Small Press Expo. I learned that this year because I sold my car back in August and Small Press Expo was in September. And I could get there by train. So that was what I did. I just took the train into DC, and I'm so glad that I did that because years and years and years ago, I drove in the DC area. Please don't drive in the DC area. It's awful. Don't do it. Everybody would be much better off without driving in the DC area. Just walk and take the metro. That's what I did. And it worked out well for me. Thinking about the public transit got me thinking about the bus system here in Toledo, which now that I am largely car free, I've been using the bus system a lot more often, which it could improve. It's better than nothing. It's also a little easier to keep track of than a lot of cities, though, because there's only one bus system in operation, and that's Tarda. That said, wish that there were more covered bus stops, especially because we have winter. It's awful. Oh, yeah, confirming. Never drive in DC. Metro Rail is your friend. Absolutely. If you're going to the DC area, just take Metro Rail. It literally takes you wherever you need to go. It even got expanded and can connect to one of the airports. It connects to 2 airports now, but it extended one of their lines. I think it was the Silver Line, and it's now extended to one of the other airports. So good on you, DC. You're doing good. Keep up the good work. Are there things that could be improved? Of course. There's always something to improve upon with a public transit system, but gotta say, they're doing better than most. There we go. Okay. So I mentioned goals for 2024, and other than reconfiguring like convention appearances, etc., I'm actually going to be putting a lot more energy into YouTube, methinks. Not just live streams, although live streams will continue. Don't worry about that. I am looking into doing more shorts, doing more actual videos, and that sort of thing. I've been posting a lot more in the community tab. So if there's any changes in the streaming schedule, community tab is usually the first place that I post that at. So just an FYI, in case you were like wondering about that sort of thing. I'm going to tidy up these textures a little bit. Bear with me. But yeah, I'm looking to grow YouTube because, well, I'll go ahead and say this. I wrote the script for this video. Whoops. Realized that was erasing more than I wanted it to. I wrote the script for a video talking about an Inktober social media experiment that I did during the month of October. I wrote the script for it. I'm going to be putting that video together, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that it'll be out on Monday. And I hope that you find it useful. That said, the Inktober experiment did drive home that YouTube was the fastest growing platform for my work. And I was like, well, that's a surprise because I was not anticipating that at all. I went into the experiment with the hypothesis that TikTok was going to be the fastest growing, and TikTok middled. I'll be honest, TikTok middled. It did better than Instagram. Instagram was the worst performing platform. Probably not a surprise to anybody, but I was surprised at how much Instagram lagged behind compared to YouTube and TikTok. But those are findings that I will share in the video when it comes out, hopefully Monday, knock on wood. So I'll just leave you with that little teaser, which is the findings were surprising, but it drove home that I should focus on YouTube more. So for 2024, I'm going to be doing just that. I'm going to be focusing more on YouTube. I do want to be a little bit more broad strokes in how I go about it, though, because yeah, I'll keep my eye out on Monday then. Absolutely keep your eye out on Monday. Okay. Part of the reason I've also been thinking about this is because of a YouTuber whom I have discovered recently. So I've kind of fallen down the thrifting rabbit hole on YouTube. It's not the worst rabbit hole to fall down. because I've fallen down many a YouTube rabbit hole. Like there was the urbanist YouTube rabbit hole with like not just bikes and strong towns, etc. And I've fallen down other YouTube rabbit holes, but the thrifter rabbit hole introduced me to Kathleen Illustrated. She did a video about how to thrift like a pro, and then after that, I just watched a lot of her videos, including where she made a. She actually went to the thrift store because rather than spending thousands of dollars on a Loewe and Howl's Moving Castle collaboration fashion piece, she went to the thrift store, got a jeans jacket, and made a replica. And I'm like, ooh, I like this. Like, color me interested in that. Because like the thing about Kathleen Illustrated, and she's talked about this in a recent video, is that she doesn't necessarily see herself as a fashion or stylist YouTuber. She considers herself an artist first and foremost. And everything that she does and makes videos about, in her mind, reinforces that idea. Like she paints on clothes. She comes up with other ideas for how to style her clothing. Styling is an art form, is something that she argues about a lot. And I was like thinking about it for my own channel and being like, what broad strokes can I take for my channel that would keep it interesting, but also give me a chance to separate business from pleasure? Because I don't want to overlap my personal life with my work life too much. Something I've really come to value in the last year is the separation of work life and private life. The me that you see on stream is kind of close to the me that's not on stream, but it's not 100% me. So please don't form a weird parasocial relationship with me in that regard. That said, I do want to experiment more with the kinds of YouTube stuff that I want to post. Like, I don't want to just do live streams, but I also don't want to do like really heavily involved video essays. My computer cannot process that. I do not have the processing power to make videos longer than like 20 minutes. Just full disclosure. Like, this computer gets a little fussy when I try to like run OBS and Clip Studio Paint at the same time. I don't want to risk having it explode trying to make long video essays. That said, I've had ideas for like essay content, and I'm like, this could be a podcast. So I'm actually looking to making a podcast. So yeah. Yeah, actually, seriously, I am looking at possibly making a podcast. I have a couple of scripts and I have a list of ideas of episodes. It's just a matter of actually recording them and finding some like decent intro and outro music. Not really looking to monetize the podcast. I'm just more interested in just making it. That podcast is going to have to wait until after the pop-up shop, though. Pop-up shop is taking a lot of my energy currently. Link in the description, link on the screen. But yeah, once the pop-up shop has wrapped up and everything, then I'll actually have like time to do the other stuff that I would really like to do. One second, I just realized that I haven't been drawing a lot of the ground shadows, so I'm going to fix that real quick. Yeah, that'll work. That'll work. Yes. honestly, one of my fears that kept me from making YouTube videos in the past was the fear that my life was too boring. Like, I was honestly legit concerned that life and behind the scenes stuff, etc., was going to be too boring for viewers and nobody would want to watch that. And then I discovered that there are just some people who turn on videos just for the vibes. And also ASMR is a thing that people listen to deliberately to go to sleep. And I'm like, if there are people who are making content deliberately for people to go to sleep, then I don't know. I don't think my work is boring enough to warrant people falling asleep to it, but if people fall asleep to it, then that's the value that they get out of it, and I'm not going to complain about that. Because it's like, hey, even a use that was not intended is still a use. I just heard an Amazon like delivery man beep outside of the door, and I'm like, what the heck are you doing at this hour, my guy? Go home. I don't think he left a package for me though, so okay. Gio, you are not the first person to make this request. 7-hour documentary on Jamie Roberts' color theory. When? You were hilariously, you are not the first person to make this request. I actually have another cartoonist friend who asked me to make an entire zine of lore for the legend of Jamie Roberts, and I'm giving it some serious thought. It might be one of the first zines that I make for 2024 for my fan club members. More information about the club in the doobly-doo. So yeah, I'm legit looking into making a lore book. Part of making a lore book involves finding a recipe for a hot pepper soup. And I've been testing recipes because there is just a throwaway gag in The Legend of Jamie Roberts chapter 3 where they stop at Egypt's house for lunch, but Egypt likes her food really, really spicy. And she makes this like comment about, I only put 3 peppers in the soup. And I'm like, well, now I have to find recipes of soup that involve 3 peppers. Because Alex, the cartoonist who requested the lore book, was like, it would be so interesting if you actually posted a recipe for this soup. And I'm like, challenge accepted. So now I'm figuring out soup recipes that I could put into the lore book. I did test one. It was not spicy enough. It utilized 3 types of peppers, but the actual soup recipe called for using like 6 bell peppers. And I'm like, that's a lot of bell peppers. And yeah, it was a lot of bell peppers. It was a very good soup, but it was a lot of bell peppers. There, we're going to start with that blocking for right now. I did find another one that's more like a Texas chili, which would be the kind of spice that I'm looking for that involves 3 peppers, because that one has, I know that jalapeno and habanero are in there. I can't remember the third one. But there is a third pepper that is sufficiently spicy enough that I'm like, I'm willing to give this a try. Yeah, I like to listen to other creatives while I'm working, so there is a market. Yeah. Yeah, there is. I too also like to listen to other creatives while I am working. And honestly, a lot of the people who, I don't want to say consume my content, but a lot of the folks who turn on my live streams basically treat it like a podcast and like background noise while they work, which is totally okay. I'm not going to fault you for that. Sometimes I do that too. I'll just find somebody's archived stream, or I will actually seek out a video essay and just turn it on in the background for noise. I actually did that earlier today. I turned on one of Kathleen Illustrated's playlists. I think it was like a thrift makeover or something like that. It's a playlist where she like finds things at the thrift store, and then she like rehabs it. Rehab's not the right word, but basically takes something and then glows it up. Like, hey, I made this Loewe inspired jeans jacket rather than spending $1,000 on something. And honestly, love that for her. And I love that there is a playlist where that video is featured. Makes me happy. Okay, there we go. Broad strokes, broad strokes. I still can't get over the joke of like 7-hour documentary about color theory and the legend of Jamie Roberts. I'll be honest, I'm actually considering making a whole ass video about the character design for the legend of Jamie Roberts, because there was a lot of thought put into a lot of these character designs. And particularly involving the twist that gets revealed in chapter 7. No spoilers, because there are some folks who have not gotten that far in the comics, so no spoilers, but there is a twist in chapter 7 that's like, oh, that's why this character looks the way that they do. Interesting. Okay, for this one, okay. I was like, I need to do like really broad blocks, and I figured that's the best way to do it. Okay. You know, something else that I could possibly make a video about that I think people would find interesting, particularly people who are in the Strong Towns movement, going carless in Toledo. I do feel like there could be something to that about making a video that is just about that. Because I'll tell you what, it's a journey. There are worse cities to go carless in, but there are certainly better ones. Again, the bus system is okay. It's serviceable. I will say easier to keep track of than most city bus systems, because there's only one bus system that services the Toledo area, and that is Tarda. Because there are some cities where it's like there are 3 different bus lines that run. Good luck keeping track of them all. And it's like, oh boy, please don't make me do that. I would like to reiterate, please don't ride Greyhound. I have heard nothing but horror stories. And also my younger sibling, they do long distance trucking for a living. And on occasion, the truck companies will be like, hey, we need you to take a Greyhound. And like every time, just about every time, like Kai has reiterated to me, they're like, Greyhound bus drivers are not paid enough to care. So like, if you lose something, please don't lose anything. Because if you lose something on the Greyhound bus, it's gone forever. And I'm like, oh, okay. Maybe I just won't. Just checking on things, making sure everything's all hunky-dory. Because the thing is that I have to switch windows in order to draw stuff, and that takes me away from like the tech endy things for the live stream. So I have to like stop drawing on occasion to switch back over and just make sure that stuff is running as smoothly as it can. Cool. So far, so good. We have covered a lot of ground already, and it's not even like 7 o'clock. This might be a short stream. We'll see. I know I got to wrap this up before 8 o'clock. I got someplace to be at 8 o'clock. But other than that, we'll see if this is something that wraps up at 7 or 7:30. Because, like, yeah, I'm adding shadows. Yeah, I'm getting close to done with the shadows. I'm thinking about adding some highlights here. Okay. Got it. Yes. Actually, Thomas's sweater is based on this sweater that I'm wearing right now. For context, I'll turn the colors on so that you can see. Yep. Yeah, his sweater is based on this one. It's cozy. I can't help it. This is one of the few sweaters I did not knit myself. I have now knitted 3 sweaters. I have a problem. And this is also one of the reasons why I was considering branching out into stuff besides just making comics. Because it's like, I make other stuff. Like, I knit whole ass sweaters. Would I record a video all about that, a la Shannon Makes? Probably not. But, you know, just talking about the art process is something that I would like to do. You know, the process of what does it look like to knit a sweater? I'll tell you what it looks like. It looks like sitting in front of the TV for long stretches of time and just turning on movies or let's play games or whatever long form content for months and just having that play while I knit. And that's just like the really basic like knitting patterns. We're not even talking about like the Fair Isle knitting, which I have not gotten to that level yet. One day I want to get there because Fair Isle knitting is like, I'm trying to think of a good like comics equivalent to this. Okay, this is a deep cut for animators out there, but it feels like to me Fair Isle knitting is the knitting equivalent in the animation world of the original director's intent for The Thief and the Cobbler. Again, this is a real deep cut for animation peeps out there. And even then, some animation peeps may not even know about this. But if you have the time to, I would encourage you to check out The Thief and the Cobbler, the recobbled cut. There are many different iterations of the recobbled cut that exist on YouTube, but check out the recobbled cuts because the recobbled cuts of The Thief and the Cobbler are the closest to the original director's intent as it exists in the world that we live in. Because The Thief and the Cobbler, the iteration that made it into pop culture, it's not what the director intended at all. I think the director, why am I blanking on his name? It's Richard something. The same guy who directed the animation for Who Framed Roger Rabbit and also came up with the Pizza mascot for Little Caesars. Yes, it's the same man. The creatives are wild. And that's not even getting into the life that is Shel Silverstein. Shel Silverstein is another one of those creatives that you just cannot box. I want to say it's Richard Williams. animation nerds, feel free to correct me in the comments. I really should know this because I had his book on my shelf for the longest time. I really gotta double check that. But yeah, if you can find the recobbled cut of The Thief and the Cobbler, they exist on YouTube. Check it out. They are amazing. But the thing about the recobbled cuts is that that was the director's original intent, and it could never come to fruition because it was too complicated. There are just a lot of animators who look at the recobbled cut and they're like, my guy, why do you insist on drawing this by hand? There's a Xerox machine for that. Which is part of the problem with Fair Isle knitting is why would you engage in Fair Isle knitting when knitting machines exist? And the thing is that I want to do Fair Isle knitting for the challenge. I like the challenge. I'm that kind of person. I feel like that's my inner Goku talking. Check off the square in live stream bingo, talking about Dragon Ball Z for a second. One of my favorite characteristics of Goku from Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z is that if he comes across a challenge, he's like, challenge accepted. And he will endeavor and try. And even if he doesn't win, he's like, well, I'm better now than I was previously. Like, his MO is not to become the strongest ever. His MO is to be stronger than he was yesterday. And I can really get behind that because, like, when I first started making art, initially, admittedly, it was out of a selfish desire to be like, I want to draw better than this person whom I am friends with. But as time went on and I kept practicing, I was like, well, this is better than what I was drawing a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago. I'm improving. I'm getting better at this. And as I kept going, the better that I got. And I kept improving and getting better than my previous self. And that was enough for me. It still is. It's still enough for me to be like, hey, I'm better than the person that I was like several months ago. And I love that. I love that about the creative process. And, you know, engaging in creative challenges like, I mean, Inktober, you could argue that Inktober could be one of those things where, like, if you succeed in Inktober, it's like, hey, I managed to get this done. I'm slightly better than I was before I started this challenge. I at least have more work. Okay, I think that's all the shading. Let me check. Yeah, that's all the shadows. Let's see how it looks with the colors. Yeah, if we add highlights, it's really going to pop. So let's go ahead and add those highlights in there. Now, since the shades are already yellow, we'll have our highlights also in like a tint of yellow. So we'll put that layer on screen mode and have it at, I'm going to start it at 50%, but I may increase it depending on how it looks. Here we go. Oh, we're actually going to do this. Nope. Hold on. You can't hardly see that. So let's. Still can't hardly see that. Let's bump that up to 75. Okay, that's a bit better. We'll keep it at 75 then. I'm going to use this brush because it has a bit of a texture to it. And I want the sweater to have some texture with it. To that end, I might actually go back into the shade layer and let's do this. Boop. Okay, we're working in shades. Oh, that's going to take too long. Never mind. Go back to highlights, and we'll just keep using that brush because we already set the standard. Yeah. Bring back the pen though, because then we can kind of run it along the edges of where the shadow is, because doing this does make the shadow pop. I've come to discover, particularly on surfaces that are supposed to read as like vinyl or satin or some other like really soft kind of color or soft surface. Boop. But also on metals. If you want to make metal highlights really pop, put the highlights right next to the shadows. Pro tip for you there. You're welcome. We'll redo this. That's much better. Oh, you know what? Let's bring that to 70, actually. Cool. So yeah, whenever I do artistic endeavors, it is often for the challenge of it because I want to come out the other end of it better than I was before. But I also got to really pace myself because I don't want to too much. Not because of the dreaded B word, being burnout, which is a hot topic thing. I do find that with people overusing the word burnout, that its significance has been kind of lost because, like, I did experience burnout, but not because of making art. It was because of the office job that I worked at, which was absolutely emotionally draining. And one of the reasons that I even turned in my notice there was because it was toxic as hell. And HR was not helping. But we're not going to get too much into that unless you really want to hear the hot goss. If you really want to hear about it, shout it out in the comments, but I'm not going to get too much into it right now. Suffice it to say, whenever topics of burnout come up in online conversations, it's almost cutesy. Like, oh, you're just really tired because you've been posting a lot on YouTube. Just take a break from YouTube, which is, that's just exhaustion. It's not necessarily burnout. Burnout is an entirely different phenomenon in my experience. But that could also be because I am neurodivergent. Neurodivergent burnout looks very different from neurotypical burnout. I feel like neurotypical burnout is, oh, I've just been working so hard, I need a break. Whereas neurodivergent burnout is, I wonder what would happen if I walked in front of this moving train. That is neurodivergent burnout right there. I am in a much better place now. And part of that was quitting that office job. Real glad that I left. Okay, there we go. On the lighter end of things, there is that threat of, oh gosh, what if I'm working myself too hard? And that's something that I am doing my best to be more mindful of for next year, for 2024. I really don't want to work too hard. So I'm going to be a lot more mindful about how many projects I've got going on at once and what level of commitment that they demand of me. So, full disclosure, going to be posting a lot less on Instagram next year for 2024. I might still be keeping tabs on it because for some godforsaken reason, a lot of places like to post their call for submissions on Instagram. Kind of like I had kind of joined Twitter for a while because a lot of people were posting their calls for submission on Twitter. Hilarious that that's not as much of a thing anymore. Honestly, I don't know how much longer Instagram is going to keep going as it is, because, and maybe this is just the fact that I wrote something called the Anti-Attention Economy Manifesto that calls out this kind of thing. But have you noticed, because I've noticed, have you noticed that the way that Instagram functions, they reward and prioritize AI artists, because working with AI means that they can just keep spitting shit out, because the ultimate aim of a social media platform is not quality. It is overwhelming your senses to keep you glued onto the platform. The incentive of people who run social media platforms is not quality content. It's having so much of it that you stay glued to it. They want your eyeballs, no matter what the quality looks like. This is why TikTok can churn out a bunch of chum and it just keeps going. Every once in a while, you'll come across a gem. Sure. It's not a requirement. So, you know, folks who are making really good quality stuff are being drowned out on Instagram by basically machines, because Instagram's algorithm is built as such that it rewards people who post really consistently. And the only people who can post like super duper consistently are robots. And they are rewarded for it in likes and attention, etc. Because that's how these platforms pay their creators. Like TikTok used to have a creator pool. I don't know if it still does, but something that the Starfish Face actually brought up in a video. She did an entire video all about her journey to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. And she brings up how she had tried to game TikTok as much as possible to try to make an income off of there. But no matter how many millions of views that she got, no matter how viral she got, the highest paycheck that she ever got from TikTok was $5. And she was getting views in the millions. Like, if a person who's getting views in the millions is only getting paid $5 by a social media platform, that social media platform really needs to reconfigure how they're paying their creators. This is one of the reasons I wrote the Anti-Attention Economy Manifesto, because after a certain point, a lot of these social media platforms are like, we will pay you in likes and exposure. And sorry, exposure doesn't pay the rent. Exposure does not pay for groceries. Likes and shares, but especially likes, does not pay for cat food. And it's really insulting that a lot of these social media platforms are thinking that I'm going to be grateful for all of the likes and shares and shit. So, yeah. At least YouTube actually pays their creators. Like, it's not a living wage by any means, but it is better than TikTok or Instagram. Like, Instagram actually paid better than TikTok there for a little bit, but they have since run out of money. And even then, they only paid their creators if they were over like a certain threshold of several thousand. And it's like most people are not going to reach that. Oh, I need to touch up that blue. I missed a blue spot. I feel the need to change the topic. I feel like I'm being a little bit of a negative Nancy here, but I'm just trying to be pragmatic and help curb expectations for anybody who's like new to getting their work out there or who wants to get their work out there. Again, my social media experiment in October during the Inktober challenge really drove home for me that Instagram is not where I need to put my energy and attention right now. It's actually the worst place to put my energy and attention right now. Sorry, the Los. I know that you're like the resident Instagram expert, but I am leaning away from doing Instagram stuff next year. More than likely, Instagram will still be around next year. But, you know, I also don't want to make too many predictions. Though, Ben and I did make a prediction in past live streams that Discord was going to pick up. And hilariously, right after we did that live stream, Discord announced that they were going to get involved in like blockchain and NFT and AI shit. And I don't know if they still are necessarily, but I do know that there was a backlash. So if you're going to be engaging in any social media platforms, do so with reservations. Like, yeah, I'm going to be getting more involved with YouTube next year, but I am going in with the understanding that YouTube is a Skinner box. It can be really tempting to be like, oh, here's the pattern of behavior that you need to engage in to get the most views possible and to get the most engagement and likes possible. It's not really a thing with YouTube. YouTube is you post it. If it gets picked up, neat. If it does not get picked up, welcome to the club of millions of videos. Because there's an awful lot of videos on YouTube that regularly do not get even above 1,000 views. And that's okay. Honestly, I'm more interested in just trying out new things with YouTube. Like, there are some video formats that I want to give a try and post that on YouTube and see what that gets me. But going into it with the understanding that if that video format does go well, I don't have to make more videos like that. Like, one of my more viral videos that I ever made was actually a archived live stream showing how I use Affinity Publisher to format my books. And like, there's a little part of me that's like, really? That was the one? Okay. Because, I mean, I feel like my Clip Studio Paint tutorial video was more helpful than that, and yet that was the one that got viral, so yeah. My barometer of taste and YouTube's algorithms of barometer of taste are two different things. It's something I wish that more people understood. And you may try to train the YouTube algorithm on your barometer of taste. That doesn't necessarily mean that the YouTube algorithm actually knows how to calibrate it. There was somebody who made a video. It was shared on one of the cartoonist servers that I'm a part of. And I got to double check who made this video. But there was somebody who made a video about why it is that AI art is not going to replace actual artists anytime soon. And the argument that was made was that AI art does not have taste. And I'm like, it's not wrong. Because a AI machine, like, it only spits out the input that you put into it. It does not make judgment calls about the content that you put into it. Like, part of the reason that my art looks the way that it does is because I've seen other art styles and I went, oh, I don't like how that looks, so I'm not going to draw like that. This is a truism about writing. I feel like this is also a truism about art, and particularly for comics. What you leave out says just as much as what you put in. What you leave out of the story, of the art, etc., says just as much as what you put into the thing. It's true for writing. It's true for comics making. It's true for a lot of art forms. Okay, so we added those highlights, and yeah, that helped it pop a lot. Goodness. It's actually looking pretty. Look at that. Oh my gosh, so toot. Cute patoot. Yeah. I really like how this turned out. I'm not going to lie. We're saving our progress. This is actually a pretty beefy file because I also recorded the time lapse within Clip Studio Paint. So, there is an argument to be made about that. Though at the end of the day, it's about actual engagement. With social media, yeah. Social media is a deep down a commercial about you. That's the tricky thing about social media that kind of irks me, is that it can be really easy to commercialize yourself. I don't know if that was necessarily the original intent with social media when it first came about. It's just something that social media morphed into over time, where social media just became this super commercial thing. I think it's now gotten to the point where people who make up the consumer base are fed up with social media being so commercialized. And something that I'm noticing is that there is more of a drive towards returning to the old days of GeoCities, where you're making weird websites and not making it for the likes and the comments and stuff. You're just making it because you're making it to be weird. And I feel like there is room for that. And that there should be room for that. To that end, when it comes to my own stuff, I do intend on keeping up my own level of weird. And I hope you stick around for that. So all of that said, look at this art. It's so pretty. I love it so much. Oh my gosh. You know what? Let's not complicate it. We'll just leave it at that, because this is just so pretty. I love it. I love it so much. We're saving our progress. We're gonna save our progress, and then we're going to take care of that off stream. Okay, so other thing I wanted to show off, since we've been drawing holiday art and all that stuff, before I get into that, I'm going to have some tea because I've been talking a lot. I'm so glad that I have the mug warmer in the back corner over there. It's absolutely the greatest holiday present I ever got. Thank you, Kristen, for the generic winter holiday present that you gifted me of the mug warmer. It has been a game changer. I still keep using it. Okay, so other holiday art. I just want to show this off because I cranked this out in like 40 minutes and I'm still really proud of it. So this is going to be a phone wallpaper. And I already have it formatted for iPhone and Android. And that's going to be listed on my Ko-fi page this weekend. So keep an eye out for that. Right now, most of my energy is going towards the pop-up shop, which is still open. We are taking orders until December 1st. Crowdfunder.com/FPhilPopShop. Link is also in the doobly-doo. Also, feel the need to mention this. The Legend of Jamie Roberts volumes 1 and 2 are available in the pop-up shop. Specifically for volume 1, it's the misprints from the first print run. That's why they're discounted to $20 a piece, because that was what they were listed for on the Kickstarter campaign. The entire first print run has a misprint on one page specifically. That's why they are discounted the way that they are. But I still have a bunch of these copies, so I was like, I'll put it up in the pop-up shop. A surprising number of them sold at the because this past weekend I did a one-day event at Iced Here Brewing to showcase everything that was in the holiday pop-up shop on my store. And that included The Legend of Jamie Roberts Volume 1 misprints. Jamie Roberts and the Ramen Sorcerer tote bags were the most popular items at Iced Here Brewing when I showcased. So because of that, we don't have that many tote bags left. So if you want to get a tote bag, these next couple of days are your last couple of days to get those. So there you go. Geo, you spoil me. Misprint is still a print. It's a great story and a greater buy. There were people at Iced here who were like, oh, it's a misprint, so it's a collector's item is what you're saying. And I'm like, there were people who backed the campaign who made that argument, so I'm not going to argue against it. If you want to treat it as a collector's item, by all means, go for it. It's the last of the first print run. Make of that what you will. And that's at crowdfunder.com/FPhilPopShop. Link also in the description. This phone background, though, this phone wallpaper of Jamie sipping on some hot cocoa is... I'll be honest, I'm really proud of this one. I managed to, like I said, I cranked this out in like 40 minutes, and I'm really pleased with how it turned out. I figured that I would not finish off the torso at the bottom because I'm like, this is intended to be a phone wallpaper. There are generally icons along the bottom of the screen. That's just going to block that off, so I'm not too worried about that. But I just really like how this turned out, okay? So this will be available for download soon. Keep an eye on the email newsletter for that. Link to sign up is in the description. So yes. The other thing I'm looking at doing, and I need to double check the specs for this, I want to see if the phone wallpapers can double as bookmarks. Some of them can double as stickers pretty easily. This could work as a sticker. But I want to double check the specs and see if they can work as bookmarks. Because one thing I do want to do more of next year is smaller things like keychains, bookmarks, stickers, and that sort of thing. We'll see how that turns out. That's a behind-the-scenes thing. Not going to worry about it too much right now. I'm just going to bask in how absolutely stunning this looks. I'm just going to enjoy it while I'm looking at it. I hope you enjoyed watching the progress of this as much as I enjoyed drawing it. I love drawing these three characters so much. I love all of these characters so much. I could talk about them all day. I could talk about the comic all day. Like, and I probably will in future streams and videos. So if you would like to know more about that, subscribe and self-plug. Okay. With that, I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping up the stream here. So let's get into the post-stream announcements. One of the first ones I want to mention, this art that I just finished will also be available as a desktop wallpaper download for folks who subscribe with a monthly pledge on Ko-fi. So if you'd like to pledge your support on Ko-fi, there's a link for that in the doobly-doo. I might also have a banner for it. Let me look. I do. Ko-fi.com/Kelsey D. Crawford. If you go there and you pledge to the art club tier, you will get desktop and phone wallpaper downloads as part of your membership. You'll also get unlimited zines and early access to pages of The Legend of Jamie Roberts, if that entices you. You'll also get early updates of Vanita in the Demon King until I put that comic back on hiatus. Other behind the scenes thing that I wanted to mention, thinking about putting that comic, Vanita in the Demon King, on hiatus because it doesn't get nearly as many readers as The Legend does. People know my work for The Legend of Jamie Roberts, and I just want to reward that. And I love drawing these characters, and I just want to keep doing that. So I think I'm just going to keep doing that in the coming months and into next year. So like, comment, and subscribe to stay tuned for that. This stream was made to showcase some holiday art because I'm running the Fantasyville Holiday pop-up shop. It's in its final days. So we are taking orders for the pop-up shop until December 1st. So if you would like to support indie creators and get some very cool indie comics, check out crowdfunder.com/FPhilPopShop. Also, subscribe and get notifications for my YouTube channel because there will be a stream this Friday. We're going to be having a little wrap-up party for the crowdfunder featuring some of the creators who were part of the pop-up shop, because it's not just my work that's being featured. It's like 9 to 10 other artists who are also being featured. Check out the campaign for more information and to find out who the artists are and what their work is. There's also a link in the description if you would like to check that out. That's all that I've got for now that I can think of at the top of my head. If I miss anything, keep an eye on the community tab. So that's all I got for now. Thank you all so much for watching. Also, thank you, Los and Gio, for hanging out in the live chat with me. Thank you, folks who were lurking while I was working. And thank you, folks who are catching this on the replay. Thank you all for watching. You are awesome.